August 9, 1969. Hollywood screenwriter Roman Polanski returned home to find 7 people dead, including his pregnant wife Sharon Tate. They had been murdered in the most gruesome way possible, stabbed, shot, and beaten. The killer left messages on the walls in blood. The world was horrified. But who was responsible? The investigation would reveal a failed musician named Charles Manson and his cult of followers who believed his every word. How did one man convince others to kill for him? What made his family commit such atrocities? This is the complete story of America's most notorious cult leader. Welcome to the channel. Charles Manson was born in 1934 to an unwed teenager in Ohio. He spent his childhood in reform schools and orphanages. By 15, he was in prison. Yet here's the problem: even as a young man, Manson was manipulating those around him. Yet one detail doesn't fit what made this small-time con man become a cult leader. And that's where it gets strange. His cellmate in prison was a member of the Beatles' inner circle, introducing him to their music and philosophy. Was that where the seed of Helter Skelter was planted? Peak 1. In 1967, Manson was released from prison and headed to San Francisco. He found impressionable young people, mostly women, who believed his teachings. He created the family. Yet here's the problem: Manson had no money, no real skills, yet people followed him blindly. Yet one detail doesn't fit. What did he offer them? And that's where it gets strange. He taught them that rock and roll was a message from God, and that they would start a race war called Helter Skelter. How did this crazy plan take hold? The family moved to an old movie ranch called Spahn Ranch. There, Manson exerted total control over his followers. Yet here's the problem: they lived in squalor, having sex with each other and with Manson. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why would anyone choose this life? And that's where it gets strange. Manson told them that the world was about to end in a race war, and only they would survive in underground cities. They believed him completely. Week 2, on August 9, 1969, family members broke into the home of Roman Polanski. They murdered 5 people, including pregnant actress Sharon Tate. Yet here's the problem: the family had no connection to Polanski. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why did Manson order this killing? And that's where it gets strange. The murders were meant to start Helter Skelter, but the race war never came. Did they kill the wrong people? The very next night, the family killed again. They broke into the home of Lino and Rosemary LaBianca. Yet here's the problem: the murders were even more brutal than the first. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why was this killing different? And that's where it gets strange. The killers wrote death to pigs and Helter Skelter on the walls. They wanted the world to know who was responsible. At first, police had no leads. The murders seemed random. Yet here's the problem: a traffic stop would change everything. Yet one detail doesn't fit. How did police connect the murders to a cult? And that's where it gets strange. 2 family members were arrested for an unrelated crime, and their statements led police to Manson. The most famous murders in America were solved by coincidence. The trial of Charles Manson and his followers began in 1970. It was the longest trial in California history. Yet here's the problem: Manson used the trial as a platform for his beliefs. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why did the judge allow this? And that's where it gets strange. Manson carved an X on his forehead to represent the followers who would die for him. He was willing to sacrifice everyone. Peak 3. On January 25, 1971, the verdicts came in. Manson and all his followers were guilty. Yet here's the problem: none of them showed remorse. Yet one detail doesn't fit. How could they not regret killing innocent people? And that's where it gets strange. They celebrated their convictions as martyrdom. They believed dying for Manson was an honor. Manson was sentenced to death, later converted to life when California abolished capital punishment. He spent the rest of his life in prison. Yet here's the problem: he continued to manipulate people from behind bars. Yet one detail doesn't fit. How did prison authorities allow this? And that's where it gets strange. He married a follower while in prison, adding another layer to his control. Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, and Charles Watson actually killed the victims. Yet here's the problem: they are still in prison today, decades later. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Have they shown genuine remorse? And that's where it gets strange. Some have been denied parole dozens of times. Their crimes defined their lives. Charles Manson died in 2017, but his influence continues. Yet here's the problem: he's become a symbol of evil that still fascinates people. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why do so many want to learn about him? And that's where it gets strange. His music was actually released, and some people collect Manson memorabilia. How did he become a twisted celebrity? Manson was one of many cult leaders throughout history. Yet here's the problem: cults still exist and recruit followers today. Yet one detail doesn't fit. Why are people still vulnerable to this manipulation? And that's where it gets strange. Some modern groups use similar tactics to Manson's. The lessons of the past haven't been learned. The Manson murders changed Hollywood forever. Yet here's the problem: the carefree 1960s ended that summer. Yet one detail doesn't fit. How did this affect the entertainment industry? And that's where it gets strange. Celebrities became more private, security increased, and the industry lost its innocence. The murders marked the end of an era. Many questions about the Manson case remain unanswered. Yet here's the problem: some evidence was destroyed or hidden. Yet one detail doesn't fit. What else might we learn? And that's where it gets strange. There are still sealed files that may contain crucial information. The full truth may never be known. Charles Manson ordered the murders of 7 innocent people. His followers killed them in his name. Yet here's the problem: Manson never showed remorse. Yet one detail doesn't fit. What drove him to such evil? And that's where it gets strange. Psychologists still debate whether he was truly mentally ill or simply a manipulative sociopath. His evil lives on in true crime fascination, in the victims' families' grief, and in the warnings we give about cult manipulation. Charles Manson showed the world how dangerous a charismatic leader can be. How do we prevent such tragedy from happening again? The Manson murders remain one of America's most disturbing true crime stories. Subscribe for more investigations into the darkest corners of history, and let me know in the comments what case you want covered next. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video.